This is the show that has hosted everyone from Sugar Ray Leonard to Keith One-Time Thurman. This is Tough Talk Tonight, brought to you by Heavy Bag Boxing.
Welcome to Tough Talk Tuesday, the first Tough Talk Tuesday of 2023. I'm your host, Lucas Biggers. Alongside me, I got Rob and Sakura. How's it going, guys?
What's up?
Hey, guys. I'm trying to recover.
We appreciate you trying, Sakura. I know you're under the weather. If you need to take a break, don't hesitate. You just let the screen go dark or change out. You can change back in as you need. But 2023 got off to a mediocre start, depending on who you ask. But we're gonna get ready to get into all of it. All right. Rob, first, let's pick up on what I think is going to be a hefty topic here. Now, Andrade picks up a win. Is the pressure on for him for a big fight?
Especially going into this fight, he wasn't even the main undercard. And that's saying a lot compared to where he puts himself at least and where other people put him at. That's saying a lot. That he wasn't the main undercard here. Now, granted, this was his first fight at 168. So he did go up in a division or in a weight class. So even though it wasn't the level of competition that we expect, it was his first fight in a higher weight class. So at least he's moving up to try and get bigger fights. But the pressure is on because he talks a lot of trash. He thinks he's a number one caliber fighter. He needs to prove it. He needs to show it. He needs to fight somebody with a bigger name, especially somebody more competitive than who he had in front of him on Saturday.
Yeah. But what makes him think that moving up is he's going to be any easier on finding a big name opponent?
I don't know, man. I don't know what he's been doing for the past year, let alone what his future may hold. He did have a good showing. He dominated the fight, but he did what we expected him to do.
For me, I just feel like middleweight, right? The middleweight division right now is kind of, it's a kind of little lackluster. We only got two big names at this point still there. I don't know how long Jamal Charlo will be that middleweight. And then you got Triple G still there. Other than that, who else can we really name that's like just making us want to watch a middleweight fight right now? So
for Andrade though, he's still got options. He's got a Lara fight. That's there. Munguia.
There's options in the division.
It's just he doesn't want those names. He's chasing Canelo still. He's not getting that fight.
Well, Monkey out, he ain't getting that fight either. Let's be real. He wasn't able to get the Triple G fight, and they all were on the same promotion at that time. The same DAZN as the distributor. So either way, he wasn't getting that fight. I think across the pond, as they like to say, but not across the pond, but just with the PBC brand, there is at least more options at 168 for them to try to match him up with. So I can see why that would make him believe that he could get or secure bigger names while he's at 168 if he's fighting with PBC.
Right. Charlo's PBC, Munguia and Lara, they're all PBC, right?
No.
No?
Munguia is with Golden Boy still.
Oh, okay.
Who else did you say? Lara, he is, last week knew he was PBC, but it's still more money, I think, to be made at 168 right now. Do I think he's a 168 pounder? No, I don't. After seeing him at that weight class. I mean, Rob's sitting up there saying that opponent wasn't that tough, but yeah, I think he was. I mean, he was tough enough to the fact that we didn't see no real, knockout situation for Andrade at that weight. Now, granted, we do know that it's some adjustments when you're moving up to a different weight class, but I didn't see anything that would make me feel like like he's really a 168 pounder.
Yeah.
Who's gonna be scared at 168?
Well,
That's what I want to know.
that's just it. Demon Nicholson. I thought that was a drop. I think they ended up waving it off and saying it was a
No, I
slip.
think it was a drop too. You know
But
what?
but they didn't.
I think he was dropped because he got hit with a flurry of punches in there. They should have called it a knockdown.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
was knocked down because the whole exchange and the falling back was due to punches. We all know what it is. I mean, but at the same time, his opponent Karen got away with one of them too. So it all evened out. I feel like it's not enough to even bring up because both of them got away with one of them.
Well,
Yeah.
it is significant on Andrade's part because Nicholson is not, he's not as highly touted. Andrade is still technically undefeated, whereas we got, I don't want to say a jobber, but maybe, a vet in there that's lost a few, now with a record of 26-5-1. So it's somebody that he handled, yes, but we're talking about moving up in weight now against not really known as a heavy puncher already. Now you're trying to go up in weight. Your punch resistance is going to be less, right? So can he even hang at 168, guys? Because I'm not seeing it. I'm not seeing it. I haven't seen it his whole career, even at 160 and 154. And now he's talking about 168. I don't know.
Well, I'll tell you what would show us. Pick up that winner between David Benavidez, Caleb Plant.
I don't even know if I want to see that. I think it's
That's a
one-sided.
huge jump, and that's a huge jump from Nicholson. I feel
Yeah,
like
and
he
he-
needs to try one more step in between there, between these
Mhm.
prize fighters before he gets to that A class level. I don't think he's ready for the winner of that fight.
Now, I
Not based
love
on
my
what we
co-host.
saw.
Not in
I
any
love-
means. Not in
I
any
love-
means, Sakura.
I love my co-host. I truly do. These are the same two people that were screaming last year, the year before, the year prior to that, for lack of a better word, that Andrade ain't shit because he don't fight Caleb Plant, Benavidez,
I ain't saying
none
that.
of these fighters.
I
So,
like Andrade. I just think he's a 160
so
pound
now,
fighter, and that he's not going to garner what he really. Well, if he just want a big payday, then he'll garner that. But if he's after like some accolades and for him to be really seen as the level that he feels he is, I don't know if he gains that at this weight class. And
this is
and I'm an
2023.
actual fan.
This is 2023. We need to see you step up. I don't give a damn if you're not naturally 168. You went to that division. You're still undefeated. You were undefeated your whole career at 160. Move up in weight. Face the top talent. Next in line should be Benavidez, Caleb Plant. End of discussion.
Yeah, in the
Oh,
whole
man,
discussion.
you know he ain't ready for that. Now, I don't get me wrong, I'll still take it, but here's the problem: he's never got that measuring stick fight. Right now, and this man is 34 years old. You're starting to head out of your prime, right? Within the next year or two, everybody's a little different when their prime is. Some can hold it longer. He hasn't fought any tough fights, so honestly, he should be able to, elongate it a little bit. The problem is for any meaningful fight, which he's been a world champion and still hasn't had a meaningful fight. That's pretty sad to say. But so far, through your 34 years of age, you have a meaningless career, right?
Now let's also say this. He hasn't been with PBC before. He was on the other side. He was with DAZN. We know they have limited competition in some weight classes, this one being one of them.
And he was fighting all his mandatories. But here's the thing for me, okay, guys? Like, I need to see more, but I like what he was saying about, hey, it's a whole nother new generation of fighters and boxers coming up, and we still ain't fought each other. We're like, they starting to throw out names from the next generation of talent to fight some of these people that's, been in the game a while, when they haven't even been fighting each other, the boxers that came out together. So I mean, I like what he's saying about, hey, we need to like tighten this up. We need to actually be fighting each other. But who's gonna bite on that carrot? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, of course he's saying that because he wants some big money fights, and
No,
he needs them. But I, I'm I'm still trying to hold off because I'm one of the guys that don't just say, "Oh, well, you're in there in the top of my pound for pound." I need you to prove it first, and then I can put you up there. Same reason I don't really necessarily hold Bud as high as some others yet, just because it hasn't been proven. Do I think he's capable? Yes, but I need to see it first, because sometimes my thoughts ain't right either. We all make mistakes. I want proof. I want proof in the pudding, and we ain't getting it. We ain't getting it from Andrade. I don't know if we're gonna get it anytime soon either. You got to think about it. I mean, like we talked about, Charles PBC, right? Why ain't that fight happen? These fights are not happening. Either he wants too much, or there's some negotiations that he's not willing, to let go. But the problem is are you willing to just have this meaningless career? Or are you going to take the low ball offers, maybe a shitty fight to try to win, to try to do something good? Is he ducking? What is the problem, and why is he not landing him? Can one of you two please tell me what's going on?
I don't think he can do that in this division, especially with this PBC now.
Well, which division are we talking? Because I think he can branch out between three.
Yeah, well, a lot of fighters say they can. He's at 168 right now. We got to call him a 168 fighter.
Yeah.
I don't think he can afford that in this division, because you also have Triple G, who he can definitely compete and beat with at this level in his career. And considering where Triple G is at, you have Caleb Plant, you have Benavidez. Those are two fighters, in my opinion, who ain't beat nobody yet. So they're not elite in this division at all right now at 168. So those are all possibilities that he needs to go to, and he needs to fight this year.
Well, I don't agree with some of what you said, but listen, he be saying so much, like, fuck, I can't address all this. Listen.
Because I'm right.
No, it's because
he puts it, he layers it so much that you're like, man, what thing do I want to grab and talk about?
That's the honest God's truth. What don't you see in Andre? You years ago you called him out for not fighting nobody. Now you don't want to see him fight nobody. What is it?
But no, I mean, I know the Charlos, like, they had, some beef with him from years ago when they had a fight scheduled and it got canceled. And ever since then, they have been adamant, we're not going to give him the time of day, because now that our names are established, they felt like he was then trying to gravitate back towards them. So I don't know how they're going to get them in the ring, really. I just, whether it's Charlo or not, I do think that Benavidez and Caleb Plant, I mean, listen, Caleb Plant he's a freaking god to be right now, because he's calling out. I mean, he's doing some things. Okay, he wasn't scared of no Canelo fight. He ain't scared of no big old Mexican monster called Benavidez. Like, you gotta damn respect, man.
Yeah,
and the way he laid out the dog, I mean, Benavidez didn't lay out the dog. I mean, let's listen. I'm telling you that there's some pedigree there. There's some pedigree. So I can't agree with you, Rob, on your assessment that they're not prize fighting.
They ain't beat nobody.
Fighters.
Who they beat?
But
who they beat?
I just said who they fought. I just said they fought. The
Darrell ain't nobody no more.
Yeah,
come on
when
now.
they fought him,
Darrell's
he
in
was
the retirement home. Darrell should be in the retirement home.
He had just laid out somebody the same way Caleb Plant laid him out to fight
nobody.
Nobody. So quiet. Oh, but we're going to get to that in a minute because I want you to have that same energy when we start talking about tank fight. Okay? So let's just remember you went there. But I'm just going to simply say Andrade, he's got a lot of like for me, he didn't re-sign with Matchroom. He's trying to get over where there's other 168 pounders with PBC. So I mean, get a man some credit and give him a chance to actually, go through 2023 with some good matchups because, he had already been set out for like 6 or 7 months. When was his last fight? And that's a lot of time. So he could have just been looking a little stale to us, the extra weight. Plus, he might have just took this guy Nicholson for granted. We don't know, but we're going to see later on in this year because I'm sure PBC gonna feed his ass to the wolves. They don't give a damn. So we gonna see something happen here.
I say I don't want to see it because in my mind I kind of already have seen some of these fights go. I don't, especially the ones Rob is talking about. Talking about fighting a Benavidez, talking about fighting a Caleb Plant. I think either one of them mop the floor with Demetrius Andrade. I don't think it's even close. The kid's best thing is speed. When you're going up in weight, he's going to lose even more of that speed. Like that's one of his best strengths, and he's giving it away by going up in weight. I don't see it. I mean, he gets dropped by a lot lesser punchers, right? I mean,
who, Andrade?
He's gotten dropped by Haynes, gotten dropped by tons of people, right? I mean, 4 or 5 times now. And we're talking again, we're not talking these, elite level fighters. We're talking about some of the gatekeepers or lower ranks because he has not fought anyone worth a damn.
Yeah, that's his downfall. But it wasn't this fight at 168 anyways for him?
Yes.
Okay, so he's in there with the big boys. I mean, he crossed that one side. I mean, this is supposed to be the guy that's been avoided, quote unquote avoided. And, this is the typical low reward, high risk type of fighter that people love to avoid because it doesn't make sense and you're risking a loss against a guy that nobody knows and blah, blah, blah. But I personally feel like he's underappreciated, kind of like a Rigo. Rigo wasn't really appreciated because of his style, because of the whole, Cuban wasn't really engaging. But these are guys that in their own not fan friendly style, they are supreme with their own style and they are elite. It's just like not a type of fan friendly elite. They're just like super technical, super, like just defensive type style, but they're not that shiny, they're not that flashy, but they do everything just right at a high level. That they will give anybody a run for their money any night. I
don't know. Maybe he's improved since then, but I didn't see that against some of his top opposition, like Vanes Mortensen. You fought Vanes to a split decision. He's not a defensive fighter. He relies more on speed. Yeah, he counterpunches, but I don't see anything that says he can compete. Like Rigo, I think everybody kind of was like, man, I'm going to get dog walked. Like, I don't want that fight. This, I can't say, and the words just won't feel right coming out of my saying Demetrius is going to dog walk anybody. I don't see it. I just don't see it. I might be wrong. But again, we just don't know. We don't have that measuring stick.
I look vulnerable enough that maybe some people are going to want to bite, now.
Okay,
sometimes it ain't a bad thing for you to not look like top shape, because then people, they start feeling like, hey, I could beat him, So I feel like we need to just see him at 168, in another 2 months. I'm thinking he need to go right back in there, because he needs to get used to that 168 and gain some of his speed back. Lucas, since you're saying that's his only, a real weapon
I think it is. He reminds me of a 168-pound Amir Khan.
Ooh.
Mhm.
Now I ain't
That's the
gonna
way I see it.
now
He has a chin,
just
though, Lucas.
talk.
He has a chin, man. He can take a punch.
I mean, he doesn't get knocked out, but he still gets dropped.
But
He
I
still gets
mean,
dropped.
at least he can come back. You know, his feet still comes back.
That's true. That's true. He at least
Amir
finishes on
Khan, I
his feet.
think you can hit Amir Khan with a paper clip, man. We might not see him the next
Oh my
round.
gosh.
All right, guys. A question for each of you. One, and this is just a quick yes or no. Nothing extra. Do you think he's going to get a big name here in 2023?
I hope he does. I hope he does.
Yes.
You
Yes.
think he will? You think he will?
Yeah.
Okay.
Definitely.
All right.
I think that's the whole plan. I mean, PPC has no problem using, people to get their top tier guys work. Yeah. He's brought over for that reason.
Yeah, I think he might get a chance, especially since he plans on actually leaving Matchroom. Maybe he does get picked up by Heyman, and in that case,
Oh, that contract is done. He's out of it.
Okay.
It's done.
So, if I'm him though, I'm steering clear of trying to do the individual thing. I don't know if he has a name big enough that he can try that.
Mhm.
I would definitely, like you guys said, try to go to PBC, see what he can do. Crawford's trying to do the same thing, right? And if Crawford can't do it, I would definitely suggest he just sign with PBC, and that's what I suggest for Crawford too. If you want the big fights, they're strong arming him. I think that's what this is. I think it's like, no, you want guaranteed money, you're going to sign with us. I think that's a big part of the Spence thing too. I could be wrong, but it is a little weird that all of a sudden, when you're talking interpromotional deals, that the guaranteed money went away. It's a little weird. So yeah, I don't know. I'm hoping we get something with Andrade. Also, a quick just like what if, right? We seen Golovkin not too long ago at 168. He did not look good. Can Andrade get past that version of Golovkin?
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's an easy one right there.
Really?
Yeah.
Because even that version of Golovkin, I say, knocks him out.
I don't know, man.
I
Yeah,
know,
That's
but
a hard one.
time is caught up with him big time.
I personally wouldn't say it will be an easy fight for Andrade, but I would definitely feel like he'll win on points.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
He's not defensive enough. See, and for me, it's you're still getting hit. If you're talking like somebody a little bit more slick, but you're getting hit by a lot lesser of a fighter. When you get hit by Golovkin, you're gonna feel that shit.
Your power, though.
You got dropped by Nicholson, though.
You don't respect your power, but when they respect your power, best believe they know how to stay away from you and just touch, and then land. Maybe like the third time, like they try to not, they try to make sure they out of the way for the people that's known for power.
I don't know that.
If they don't take the power, they ain't gonna stay back. They'll take a punch or two, no problem.
I mean, that's the simple answer, Lucas, but I understand where you're coming from. The problem there is that Andre's speed already was gonna be a lot for Golovkin, and now Golovkin's even slower. So that speed is what's gonna kill Golovkin in that fight. He won't be able to catch him.
Okay. I mean, it sounds like I'm the only one that's really doubting Andrade, but hey, I don't know. I'll take that. I'll take that. Maybe I'll get a chance to prove myself right. Let's hope he gets a decent fight going forward.
Yeah. I think he will.
Yeah, I can see that. It's a done deal right now. That's too many 168 pounders over there, Easy to feed them some people.
Yeah, hopefully he does find something soon. Let's talk about what I would consider the upset, I guess, of the night, because this is, and we'll get to the main card as a whole, but it was pretty. A-Side was very much a favorite in this fight, but for Ellis, not so much against Villa, guys. What happened here? Majority decision loss for Ellis. which was supposed to be a setup to win. What went wrong?
A lot.
I think first of all, Ellis started getting fatigued in the second half of the fight. Wasn't able to, like you said, defend himself as well. Once he slowed down and he wasn't able to, outbox him. He had to stand in the pocket a little bit more. And at the same time, this boxer, that opponent is known to, be able to bring on the heat later in rounds. Like he still got superpower late in rounds. So that's one thing that happened. And the other thing is it was some rounds where they kind of both, they had like maybe 2 rounds where they were both kind of inactive a little bit, or they were agreed upon rest rounds that could have gone either way. Like, so I would say Ellis needs to work on his stamina. If I'm able to tell him something to work on, is like your stamina got to be way better than that, and especially if you was about to get in the ring with another known boxer who doesn't have stamina issues. That kind of could have been a blessing in disguise for him to give him more time to prepare for a big fight.
For sure, that definitely seemed to. I didn't know completely if it was stamina. He took his foot off the gas, but either way, yeah, I mean, he definitely seemed like he was out of it.
I personally think it's a little bit more than stamina. See, that was a factor, definitely. But the thing about guys with that type of speed that rely on that type of speed, that flashy speed, is kind of like what it used to happen to Sugar Ray, mostly. Same thing, like they have this top speed, superb speed, but that shit only rounds like only 4 or 5 rounds. After the 4 or 5 round, that speed just a slow down just a notch. That one little millisecond that slow down and the guys start getting their timing on you, it's a wrap. And then usually when you use that much speed, it takes a lot more from the tank. It takes a lot more energy to be sustaining. So by the second half of the round, not only do you slow down, but that tank is already not a half level, but like a quarter level. You know what I'm saying? So I think, and then Villa, man, that the kid never stopped coming. You know what I'm saying? He has power. He was definitely taller, and that pressure. Sometimes the pressure not only when somebody's coming forward with punches, just somebody walking you constantly. Mentally, that drains you. Before you get physically drained, mentally you get drained. You get frustrated, and by the time you're trying to come out with another game plan, your legs are not there no more. So I feel like, Ellis rely a lot more on his speed. And when that wasn't working, I really didn't see much adjustment. And I feel like there's going to be some type of, things to work on their next fight. It will be that, have some type of adjustment, adapt to something else, have something else to rely on when your speed didn't get you the job in the first half of the fight.
You bring a great point, Javi, because of the Vila was putting walking him down like the entire fight, even though he wasn't winning a lot of the rounds in the first half. He was still like the aggressor.
Yeah.
And it's like the judges, you get certain judges and they reward you for that aggression when it's looking like you're forcing all the action that's happening.
Definitely.
And his style is such too, Floyd Mayweather was able to win with that more defensive style. But most judges are not like gonna reward you for, being defensive and, moving out of the way and using your jab a lot. Like they're going with the aggressor and they're going with that power. And I think that also had to play with the judges' cards too.
Yeah, and it needs to be clear defense. He was not doing that. He was still he was still getting touched. that's kind of like what I was thinking with Andre would happen. But regardless, I don't know. I see a little bit too much contact, and it's better that this happened now and like this. It can be going back and tweaked. I think Ellis will be okay. It, maybe search for a new trainer because this was lost in training camp. He was lost before he stepped into the ring.
But
Not to mention matchmaking was an
his
issue.
boxing team was telling him, do not get caught now. Like they was telling him what Vila was gonna be trying to do.
I mean, that's easier said than done. Don't get knocked out.
Why are you in the pocket right now? You're like in the 9th round, the 10th round. You know what I'm saying? It's like, why are you in the pocket? And you're already tired. Like they did warn him though.
Oh,
like
for sure.
Yeah.
But it's easier said than done. If you didn't prepare him, then he don't have nothing left anyway. So you're like, oh, stay away from him. I can't. I can't. Easier said than done. But let's go ahead and switch now and talk Boots. So Boots defeated Karen via unanimous decision. I thought it was funny.
Oh, that's the Karen. I got the names mixed up earlier. I'm sorry, guys.
Ellis, Ennis. I mean, I get it.
Yeah.
Names are similar too. So, one, were you liking how Boots looked? Or
no, he was rusty.
Oh, go ahead, Ryan.
No, he was definitely rusty, but I felt like that helped him. This fight helped him more than anything because he needed this type of competition. He needed this type of showing to say, hey, man, I'm not, there's going to be guys. This is one of those fights. And the most impressive thing to me was that Boots won as a shutout in this type of fight because Karen was tough. Karen wasn't backing down. He wasn't taking no shit. He was there. He was there to fight. He was tough. And Boots just got him a shutout. And I felt like times Boots looked like he was frustrated in there. But this is one of those fights that he has to go through to realize how to step it up. I felt like he dominates and had every fight so far has been ending in knockout. He let himself get frustrated here, and this is a big learning lesson for him to know sometimes in the ring you're going to face an opponent that's not going to go with the game plan, even though you're that much better than them. You have to learn how to step it up. So, was I impressed? No, but I didn't feel like I needed to be because he did get the shutout, and he needed this.
I mean, my whole thing is more, I'm thinking he needed that type of fight because he needed to look vulnerable. Let's be honest. He needed the same situation going on that Andrade might benefit from, which is that you now are looking like, hey, wait a minute. This ain't no boogeyman. What? They're gonna be like, I could take him. You know what I'm saying? I think I could do something. These different boxers. So maybe that's exactly what he needed to look like in that fight. I agree with you that 100% he got some work in. He got what he needed to kind of like learn from that. With experience, ring rust got taken off. Plus he got some rounds in that he much needed. I mean, because all his fights was ending like really fast. And I mean, there's not much you can work on when you dominate, boxers so well. Your opponents, even though some people feel like, Boots' record is manufactured, I think his last two opponents were the best that he could have had as stepping up fights. So now we're to the point now where after Boots had this fight with Karen, I feel like he's in a situation where he might get some phone calls now. They might actually try to make some of these bigger fights for him happen. That IBF belt is out here. and he's mandatory for Spence. So something has to happen there soon. Of course, today we supposedly got a little bit more confirmation on who his next opponent might be, but at the same time, he still is gonna have to do something about this particular title when it comes to Boots being right on his heels in a way. So we'll have to see exactly how this all works out. I'm still not opposed to Boots moving up to 154. I think that the opponents there will be much more willing to give him the fights because everybody fights each other in that division. Although I know you don't want to leave a division without having some type of title, under your belt when you're that good. So I'm hopeful that something will open up for him at welterweight. I know he says it's easy for him to make that weight. Yeah, because you're still kind of young, Boots. Just wait a little bit more age. It is going to be harder and harder to make that weight.
Yeah, I would say Boots definitely wants to get in there as soon as possible with some of the bigger names. I think this one, is that way. And I agree completely, Sakura. I think he definitely needed the rounds, and maybe that was part of it. I mean, maybe his training staff was like, no, you need to put in these rounds. Maybe he was told, Rob, not to step it up, but to go those 12 rounds, work on his craft, because this is his first time going full 12.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
but
this is his first time
honestly,
going
guys,
past 6, right?
I think so. Yeah, I think this is one of probably the first time he does 12 rounds, which is good. It's not a bad experience. Sometimes you need to know that you can go 12 rounds and you be comfortable with it.
Mhm.
But I might have to disagree with you guys because I don't think the plan is like, guys, we're gonna do 12 rounds. Like, there's no overtime in boxing, guys. You don't get paid the more you work. If you can get your men out of there on the first one, believe me, everybody will take that route. You know what I'm
Oh,
saying?
I believe he wanted to get him out of there, but I think it was
He
a good
was.
But he
thing
also
that
compressed the
it
situation,
didn't
yeah,
happen.
and he could
That's
have.
yes, and you know what? This is why sometimes I feel like it's not a bad thing, even though like he was trying, he was doing his thing, and I like how my man Robert give some fighters a certain chance. Like, okay, he didn't shine this night, but it's okay. He did what he had to do. But then in another fighters, he was like, oh, trash, overrated. But like so I like the bias a little bit. I can, I guess it's okay. I feel like I had to point it out. But at the
Mhm.
same time, I do agree with him too. Like he needed the experience, he needed the rounds, and his partner, his dancing partner wasn't really collaborating. And sometimes you get these guys that are just hard to look good against. And I feel like he was trying to shine. He knew he was in the undercard or on a pay-per-view. I'm sure he wanted to just leave the ring with an exclamation point. It just didn't go through. And to be honest, I don't think he impressed a lot of people. A lot of people probably haven't seen him. Like I personally was like, okay, I don't think this was his night. I don't think he did bad. I think he couldn't, probably work a little more because this is why I was pointing at Rob. You know, because sometimes it's like there's fans where it's like, okay, fine, you're not gonna shine every time you get in the ring, and some guys do not want to get with the game plan. But then sometimes it's like, they look at the opposite of that, and people are telling you that man wasn't on your level. You should have get him out of there. He should never belong 12 rounds with you because he's not at your level. So it's two sides of the coin, and I feel like the kid is good, but I feel like for him to like make a case for himself and actually put the pressure on these big names on his division, then he has to just do a little more because the other guys that he's trying to fight at, they already made a name for themselves and they don't need him. They
Right.
don't need him. They can fight each other and make their bucks and not even ever fight Boots, and people will be okay with that. But Boots have to just, I hate to say it, but he has to do a little bit extra because he's the guy. It's kind of like, back in the days when they had the four kings, Duran, Leonard, Tommy Hearns, and Hagler. Those three guys, Leonard, Duran, and Tommy Hearns, they pretty much had their name. They couldn't fight each other. Hagler was the guy working on the shadows. You know what I'm saying? He was working on the back. You know what I'm saying? Nobody noticed him. He had to do a little more. And that's how he got his spot in that in that fourth King era because he did a little more extra. He understood like yo, nothing's gonna be given to me. I have to do a little more extra, and then he made a statement. I think for Boots, he might have to take the Marvin Hagler round, and just you're gonna have to work a little harder than these guys. You're gonna have to put on a lot more than these guys, and don't feel bad like that you have to do more. Just get it done because they don't need you. You pretty much need to put yourself in the equation if you wanna compete with those guys.
Let me answer you, Hobby. You are absolutely correct. And I said I was disappointed in Boots because I felt like he needed to figure it out. You're absolutely correct. This was a fight that he could have knocked the guy out in the later rounds. He should have tried harder, and he should have been able to figure that out. I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt because he needs it, because obviously he's never been tested like that before. He's never had to figure it out. That's why I'm saying that this was good for him. But no, I am disappointed because I want to see that in a fighter, Boots caliber. I want you to figure it out. I want you to get him in the later rounds like you're supposed to. I want you to press the action. So, yeah, I agree with you.
I know, Javi, you said that you didn't really think that somebody who wants to go 12 rounds, but for Boots and the situation that he is in, especially when he's only gone 6 before, and I mean right now, especially for Rob, right? You hold the ESPN rankings awful high. He's 3rd, and that's only behind Crawford and Spence, right? So if he goes and actually gets some of these big fights, now you're your first fight against elite competition, and you haven't been pissed 6 rounds. So, I mean, as a trainer aspect, if you're going and you're trying to fish out or you're getting negotiations at least with some of those top elites, you definitely don't want your first 12-round fight to be against an Errol Spence or a Terrence Crawford. You want it to be against a guy that you can handle, right? So don't whop the floor with them. Don't take risks. Just wait. If the knockout comes, that's different, right?
So here's the thing, though, with that, Lucas.
It was just getting good.
Here's the thing with that, though, Lucas. What you're saying is correct. He needs the rounds, yes. That doesn't mean that he can't get a knockout. That doesn't mean that you can't go for a knockout. All the top guys say that know what they're doing. The best of the best in the ring always tell you when the knockout comes, it will come. Don't look for the knockout. Let it come to you. Boots never did that in that fight. He was never able to, and he should have been able to.
What?
And that's what I'm talking about when Javi says, and he's right. No, you don't. You might want to get some rounds in, and he was able to, but you definitely want to knock a guy out when you should or have an opportunity to do so.
I don't know. I mean, I agree with you. I'm not disagreeing, but what I'm saying is I think this may have been the plan from the jump. You get a guy who's got that hard chin. You got a guy who is not going to go anywhere easily, right? To try to get him those 12 rounds. I'm not saying there's telling him to lay off the gas or anything of that nature, but I definitely think that the plan was to at least extend past the 6, try to get him into some more deep waters, because you don't want to do that when you get put up against the elites.
Yeah, but when that crowd started booing on his ass, he went into a different gear. Like he was looking for something then. And it still didn't happen because he was, trying to force it at that point.
Right.
Yeah, and it looked like he got affected.
Yeah, he did have a guy in front of him, like you saying, that had like a chin, like goat-like.
He had that beard on him.
And Lucas, let me ask you something.
Sure.
So if I was to pay you $1,000 to do a job at my house, right? And I tell you, Lucas, the job takes 1 hour, but you have 5 hours to do it. Are you gonna take the whole 5 hours? Or are you going to make it in that 1 hour that usually it takes?
Hell no, but, if I'm trying to paint, okay, here's what I'm going to say, right? All right, I can get it done and get my money, or I can paint like Michelangelo and live forever. You know what I'm saying? you got to take that extra time in your craft. That's all I'm saying.
Hey, I respect that.
Sometimes you got to take that hard road, okay?
I like that analogy. That was pretty good.
I got a different answer. I got a different answer for you on that one, Hobby.
Oh,
Go ahead,
I got a different answer.
Hit me with it.
It's only gonna take an hour, but I'm slow and lazy, so I'm gonna take the whole 5 just to do it, just to do an hour's job because I'm slow and lazy.
But you get paid the same thing, so you could do it in an hour and be home in your bed, rubbing your toes together.
Not on some jobs, Shakur. Some jobs say you here for 5 hours, you gonna be here for 5 hours.
I thought like when I'm on a job, the quicker stuff go, the busier I am, the faster that time seems like it go by. But when you sitting up there trying to get away with not doing anything, it takes so long for them 5 hours to have been done. Like you're like, when is this gonna end?
All right, Rob, let's I'm gonna hand it over to you with this topic because you're Tank's #1 man as far as we're concerned on heavy bags. So please tell me what you think about the Hector Luis Garcia fight, the TKO win.
Look, where's the camera at? Look, this was extremely impressive to me, being as all the distractions coming into this fight and everything coming into this fight. It was very impressive to me the way that Tank was poised. I will say that he was poised. He had a composure that I haven't seen, and maybe it's because of the opponent. Maybe it's because they knew who they were up against. But he was very, very poised in this fight. Very patient. When the action was ready to take place, he delivered, and he delivered like Tank does. He showed the man the power, and as soon as he showed him the power, he buckled. Just like everybody else who's been in the ring against Tank, they buckled. So I was very impressed with the performance that he had. I felt like I was nervous because of the distractions coming into this fight, and he proved me wrong. There was nothing to worry about. He was in absolute control over there. The corner was in absolute control of the fight. Even though he looked even like he was distracted in the corner in between rounds, he was there. They brought him back in. He was focused. As soon as he went to the ring, he showed up. Tank, if he's not on your radar right now, and he should have been, if he wasn't on your radar, you definitely need to circle this kid. He is, Rob quote, the best right now in boxing, period.
Okay. Are we talking best overall? Are we talking got the most power? What exactly do you mean? I just want it to be clear.
Gervonta Tank Davis is the best fighter overall.
So you're talking pound for pound, #1, pound for pound on top. Ahead of Crawford, ahead of Spence, ahead of Usyk, right? Ahead of everybody.
Fury,
Bivol.
And you know what? Let me say this too. I've been waiting.
Okay.
I've been waiting to say this for this kid because I caught it. I caught it when he was 11 years old.
Shut your mouth.
I caught it.
You know what? You called a lot of things. You called Fortuna the next Mayweather.
Okay,
we're not talking about that. We're talking about the present show.
Let's get Javi's opinion, because
go ahead, Javi.
I was done with him when he said period. that word he uses too much. Okay.
I mean, I was gonna ask him if Tank beats Mike Tyson, but I'm not gonna go there. I'm not gonna go there right now. I feel like Tank did what he had to do, man. I do see what Rob said, though. Regardless of all the situationship that he was in. He came in, he was poised, he was calm, he did what he had to do, and he had an opponent. There was game. The opponent was not really, like somebody just waiting to be hit or somebody shy. It was just actually standing in the pocket more than a lot of people thought that he would. But hey, at the end of the day, this kid got power, man. For somebody to like, I don't think Hector Garcia wanted to leave the ring with a knockdown or getting beat. He knew what was coming, and I'm not saying that he quit, but I feel like the whole I can't see, I got hit in my head, I'm dizzy. That probably it probably did happen, and then that was his way out to like, okay, that's it, I'm done here. You know what I'm saying? Because listen,
Exactly. Bravo.
and
Bravo.
that's his
That's
first
what
loss.
needs to happen in the sport. When you lose your eyesight, even for a little bit, okay, this is a sign that there is some type of disconnect in your nerves from your brain, your optic nerve to your brain. Listen, that's nothing to be fooled up with. Like, that's the time to be like, I want to keep my eyesight, first of all. But also, if I go back in here and I know I'm dealing with a heavy puncher, what sense that made? Because the next hit could be like permanent damage. So, like, I'm all for these corners playing it safe. And not to mention, we have to remember that he was coming up from a lighter weight division. So it's not good for everybody. Like, I saw ESPN ringside, they had a title saying, Hector Garcia quits on the stool. Like, and I didn't agree with that because it's like, no, it really was a TKO. Like, that's what it was. The bell just rang and saved him. And that's what happened. It wasn't like I quit on the stool. To me, is when you ain't get hit, nothing happened, and you just decided when you was in the corner, I'm done. I shouldn't be getting hit like that, right? Everybody remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah, like, this ain't that. This, when you have symptoms of something more significant happening with your nerves and your brain and things like that, fighter safety is important. And I think it's time for our trainers and our corners, not just the doctors or the refs, to know what the signs are that they need to be aware of to stop something.
And in
So
this case, the fighter, acknowledged that himself, which is
yeah,
rare.
why would he do that when his title wasn't even on the line, first of all? Because that's at super featherweight. Why would he go out on his shield for a fight? He done already got paid. He lasted into the championship round. So, like, why would he go and put his life in danger with another hit that could have been like something more permanent going on? I mean, no, I'm not for this. And I think that the culture for boxing needs to change when it comes to this topic. Stop making people feel like punks when they done went almost the entire fight, standing right in the pocket with this man that is a heavy hitter. And it's only once he started like, okay, like, I ain't like the way that felt. And on top of that, they said they felt like he was trying to go to the wrong corner. And he was asking his team, like, what exactly happened? Like, that is definite symptoms of brain injury, guys.
You know what? You're absolutely right, Shakur.
Yeah.
You know why? Because not only is Tank Davis the best fighter in the world, he's the hardest hitting fighter.
He's dangerous.
Hits harder than Deontay Wilder.
But
okay, I don't know about all that, but
I
he's
see,
dangerous.
I
He's
see what you're
dangerous.
saying. I do.
Yes.
And I agree. I think the culture needs to change. But there's a fine line there, right? Because boxing is a very machismo thing. I mean, is very that way. And when you're the one that calls yourself out, then there's problems. I understand that. And it shouldn't necessarily be that way, but there's a fine line between that and then dude just being like in the corner, like, fuck that. I'm not going back out there into that shit. You know what I mean?
I hear you, but like, it's not like it happened in the first or the second round or some shit like that. Like, we're talking about deep into the fight, and we're
sure.
talking about where we all saw that there was some symptoms there. Like, before the fight, before the bell rang, we saw that there was something that happened in that moment. And when he was trying to get back to his corner as well. So, like, the boxer said, hey, I can't see. Yes, but it's up to your team to be like, because I've seen some corners be like, nah, get back out there, man. We only got 2 more rounds to go. Like,
the
it takes the right type of team that really care about their boxer and want to see them fight in another fight in a different day, to be like, you know what? Yeah, I think this is a good time for us to, go ahead and call this fight. And like, let's think about this. If it had went another 2 rounds and he never got caught or whatever, say he made it to the 12th round, you think he was finna get a decision win? Like,
I mean,
what's the point?
Sure.
What is the point? You're risking your fighter for what? Like, I employ all training teams to now listen. It don't take that much research to look at a video on YouTube or get some information by Googling it to know what symptoms are now.
Well, the problem is you're missing 2 other people in the ring that should have done something, right? The ref. If you're going the wrong way, you can tell. You're the closest one to the fight. You know when somebody ain't right. They should have stepped in, right? The doctor should have been like, hey, I need to at least look at him. None of that was done.
Now.
But a corner can stop it at any time.
I know. I agree.
To wait for no damn body.
I agree, but those 2 need to step in too, is what I'm saying. And those 2 are reluctant to ever do that. We don't see that in the sport.
Well, you know that.
I don't care if they need to call a round. Or I don't care if they need to extend the time between rounds to check on a fighter. It is what it is. That's what needs to happen. Javi, you look like you've had something to say.
No. I mean, I kind of agree with Sakura, but I agree with you as well. It's like a give and go. It's because I mean, I can see when you're being basically outworked, everything. You have no chance in there, and probably the only thing that you're trying to come up with is like a moral victory that you went 12 rounds with this guy. But does that even worth it when you can risk something? And then again, there's the other side of that where it's like, hey, well, this is a brutal sport, and you know what you signed into for. So if you don't really want to go all out or like go out on your shit, like some people say, then what are you doing? This ain't the sport for you. You know what I'm saying? But I mean, I guess it's like choose your poison. I feel like the kid did what he had to do as far as like winning. I'm talking about Tank. The other guy, he probably wasn't really smart trying to stay in and trade with Gervonta. He did a lot better with Colbert, but of course the competition was different. And sometimes you can have the best game plan, this and that, but when you get hit and your hair starts swinging and you start getting dizzy in there, like you put your whole life in perspective, man. The only thing I would say is I have a question for you guys. So based on everything that we're saying about this fight, do you honestly feel like this particular fight in the card was pay-per-view worthy?
No, we're gonna get to that here in just a second.
Okay, my bad.
You're good. That's the last thing we're talking about.
Okay. So
hang on.
I'll take a break.
Is pay-per-view worthy now?
Hang on. So I'm all for like nobody getting hurt anymore, making the sport safer. That being said, the training staff should never let a man go out and say, oh, I'm not going to continue. Right? If anything else, send the fighter back out. As soon as he gets hit once, you throw that white flag. That looks like you saving him. Instead, you're hurting his reputation by letting him go out in the corner, because this shouldn't even be a discussion. It shouldn't be a discussion, right? We just talked about, it's very high in machismo, and the fans love that shit. That's why Arturo Gatti is at the top. That's why all these guys that talk shit and beat people's asses at the top. That's why Tank's at the top. You have to have that, and if that is not
better,
if that's
those were the
from
days
you,
when we didn't have the science behind this shit. Lucas.
Hey,
That
I agree.
we
But
know better now. When you know better, you do better. The
it's
symptoms,
not.
the
It wasn't
signs
done
were
better.
there.
It was not done better. It was only done better because he himself did it. What I'm saying should have been done better is the doctor should have taken care of him. The ref should take care of him. There are other people there to take care of him. We saw
The
this
trainers
past
have
week.
to protect their boxer too, though. They
We
can be just as responsible.
we saw this past week, right? An NFL player have a cardiac arrest.
Oof.
Everybody made a huge deal. People die in boxing. No one cares. We don't see that shit on ESPN. We don't see Pritchard Cologne, anything for him. We don't see nothing. So boxers are forgiven. We have to protect them. But no one is looking out for them. This man had to do it himself, and that is the problem. Trainers should be watching out for him. The ref should be watching out him, and the goddamn medical staff should definitely be helping him. None of which was done.
Well, everybody should be doing their part. All I'm saying also is that boxing fans, they have to understand the science is there now. This is nothing that we have to guess about what's happening with these fighters. The science is there, the medical evidence is there to where we can prevent a lot of these senseless brain injuries from happening, the permanent ones. We can prevent that and still have a good night of fucking fights. Like nobody's saying, oh, you can't have a good
I
night
agree
of
with
fights
y'all.
because
Let's go
people
on
are
to the
having,
next topic.
because
I'm
people,
ready.
want to see people lay down. Like we're not saying that. We're just saying that the science is available now. That when you see some shit that's not looking right, you can stop it before it got worse. If he came out and Javante had already smelled that damn blood, you know exactly what was about to happen next, and it wouldn't have been good for him, not with that kind of power that Javante has. So listen, I don't think that anybody's wrong for not catching it or catching it. I'm not trying to blame anybody, but I'm saying when all systems fail, don't try to make the fighter seem like he's a wimp or he's a P when he's just saying, I want to be able to fight another day at my real weight class. Hint, hint. Hint, hint.
Agreed. Now let's move
on. So why are we trying to make it seem like, oh, he quit and he just didn't want to get this fight? No.
I think the problem still, yes, we have science, but we also don't know if somebody's just saying certain things to get out of certain fights. We've seen it before. We know certain
But
people.
You saw that with your own eyes, though, Lucas. You saw them have to redirect him to his corner.
So
if you have to sell it, you can sell it. I'm not saying anything. You can never know someone's mental state. But yeah, okay, Rob, I hear you. Let's wrap it up because we're gonna talk about the whole card last weekend's card pay-per-view worthy. Okay, this was a big debate for us off air. So on air, I'm sure it's going to continue. For me, look,
there's a reason for
pay-per-view should be made. Okay, there should not be a complete A side. That whole A side that's expected to win. Why pay for a card when I can sit there and basically say at least 3 out of 4 who's going to win, right? Especially the main event. The main event, you were already like, come on, man, we know who's going to win.
Is that your only?
Defend yourself. Rob, you wanted to talk about it. At least Lucas, let me counter you.
But Lucas, you said that the card was better than what you expected it to be we didn't know the opponent. Some specific
fight, yes. Ellis was a good little banger. The rest of them, I still was like, man, I'll take it or leave it. I'm gonna be.
You didn't think you thought Boots was gonna wipe through Karen.
He did for the most part. It was one-sided, was it not? That's a beat down. It was just, he wasn't going anywhere. He was able to take the punches. He was a moving punching bag, I guess.
He also was catching Boots with some punches. He just didn't have no power. Man. He was catching Boots with a lot of shit.
This is my point, though. Pay-per-view worthy cards, right? This is what I'm talking about. Remember the one? Okay, we're talking about the co-main should be able to stand on its own feet. right?
So
you had Garcia versus Matisse, then you had Canelo Floyd. That shit is a pay-per-view. What we see now is a fucking disgrace. We got Wilder, Helenius, we got Tank versus Garcia, not the Garcia we want. That's coming up in the future, right?
Lucas.
This is not pay-per-view. This is ruining boxing. This
Lucas, my man, you gotta relax.
I'm not.
You gotta relax.
I can't.
Hold on a minute.
This is the shit that I can't stand in the sport.
Take a deep breath right quick.
Please. I can't.
The doctor said your cholesterol is high enough.
It's blood pressure.
What?
Listen. Who sets the pay-per-view in a fight? What is the pay-per-view set up on? Who makes the pay-per-view? Why is it paid? All of the above. What contributing factor in every single fight makes it pay-per-view? The main event.
What do you mean?
The main event.
Okay.
The main event. And generally and particularly and nowadays, it's who's in the main event. The particular fighter that's in the main event. Okay? That's number one. But let's go with the facts. That's the problem. You stated opinions, and I respect your opinion. But all of that you started with in this segment was opinions. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to give you the facts. Gervonta Tank Davis just set an arena record on Saturday night. He set an arena record in Washington, D.C. There's not any fighter out there right now, especially none in this division. So y'all want to talk about the greats out there, the Lomachenko's, these guys.
Wait.
These guys.
We're gonna combat the Washington D.C. right away. That's the key words. Washington.
These guys.
He ain't gonna set no goddamn gate in Atlantic City. He ain't setting a gate anywhere else. He set a gate in Washington D.C. Yay.
But Lucas, wait a minute now.
This is a pay-per-view worthy fight.
You're wrong though on that one, Lucas, because he set records in Atlanta. He set records in
Atlanta. Atlanta's not a fighting city either.
LA.
Big fights happen in Atlanta.
I'm saying LA too. Like everywhere he go, he set some records.
Thank you.
I don't see
now.
Nothing
now,
like
before Lucas starts that, it was a $5 million. Well, yeah, it was a $5 million gate. This is just the gate numbers we're talking about. $5 million. Fighters aren't doing that right now. They're not doing that.
We don't have pay-per-view, we don't have the pay-per-view numbers yet. But what do you mean as they're not doing that?
They're not setting gate records. They're not,
because most fights don't happen in Washington, D.C.
No, it doesn't matter where it happens, Lucas.
Yes, it does. Set a record in StubHub. Set a record somewhere that's meaningful. Nobody knows the fucking Capitol Arena or whatever the hell he was at. That does not matter to me. I don't care about his game.
Here's the same person that bitches and moans about boxing not being nationwide, but yet we have a fighter right now who's setting box office records in cities across the United States.
You're confusing the two.
And you're upset about it.
No, you're confusing the two. Of course, you are confusing the two. I want fights all over the world. I want fights all over the United States. I want fights in Chicago. I want fights in St. Louis. Those two aren't getting it all. I would love those fights. I would love fights from coast to coast. That's not the problem. But the problem is when you're coming down and talking about records, then it fucking matters, right? You can sell out Chicago. Nobody goes there. That's fine. You set a record. Okay. That does not prove that a card is pay-per-view worthy. You guys both have to admit that the opposition, most of you haven't heard of, if not all of you haven't heard of most of them. Hector Garcia came up a weight class. Are we actually saying that this was competition and is pay-per-view worthy, that you didn't already know in your mind that Tank's winning this fight, right?
They're coming to see Tank.
They're coming. They don't care who we fight.
You're talking about the gate. What I'm talking about is pay-per-view.
Lucas,
but
Lucas,
we're
no,
not
no,
talking
no.
about
Okay,
that.
if you want to talk
Those
about
are separate.
no, no.
Wait,
what
but
you're
Lucas,
talking about again? That's why I said what I said to start
I
this
mean, I
segment,
was
right?
just gonna go down some other fights though. It's Rolly Romero.
Go ahead.
He set records with Rolly. He set records with Leo Santa Cruz. He set Eastside Cruz even, which was a like that was like a replacement fighter. Like, I mean, this is like a trend.
Are we still talking Gate? What are we talking about?
Right. We're still talking Gates, but
I
what
don't
we're
care about
saying-
Gate. We're talking about pay-per-view.
Okay, listen to me. Can we finish our
I'm
statements?
not talking that.
Because your gate is also an indicator of how many people would like to be there to see it, but can't, and will watch it on their TV or their phone or their
Yes.
or their tablets.
Yes
So
and no.
this is an indicator that people are interested in Tank. Why are they interested in Tank though? Because he's a knockout artist.
You guys are making me sound like I hate
So,
Tank. I do
I
not
mean-
hate Tank. I don't dislike
So,
Tank.
but
I'm
Lucas-
I
hating
know,
the
but
pay-per-view
Lucas,
setup.
but you're making
That
it
fight
seem
is
like
not pay-per-view. Wilder was not pay-per-view.
What did I start with when I said who makes the pay-per-view? So answer that question for me, will you? Who makes the pay-per-view?
What
Damn it.
makes a pay-per-view?
Who makes it though?
the
Ultimately,
promoter? What do you
besi-
mean? What
besides
do you
your
mean by that?
criteria,
You can't keep saying the same thing.
Besides your criteria, who makes the pay-per-view?
What is criteria?
It's not the card, damn it. It's the fighter.
It's criteria.
The main event. It's the main event.
God.
It's
Look,
the main event. It's the
Look.
fighter. It's not the card. You're mad because it's not a worthy
Well,
card.
wait a minute. Hold
You're
on.
mad because
I'ma
it's
have
not
to
a fight
speak
that
in
you
on
want
this
to
said-
see.
one, though.
you just
A
said the
good
reason.
pay-per-view does have a great
No, it doesn't.
undercard.
It's not
Yes.
about that
It
though.
It
And
does.
It's not a.
I said a great pay-per-view does have a great. It has a good.
I'll
It's a
give you
whole
that.
good card
I'll
of
give you that.
fights, matchups. It's an overall thing for me.
I'll-
You want the main event now. You definitely want to see that main event. You definitely want to see that main fighter. Yes, but what makes a great pay-per-view is when that entire card is stumping. Okay.
And when
When-
have we seen that?
This
last?
this is what I was talking about.
And
I'm
when
just
have we seen
saying,
that
I
last?
don't agree. I'm just saying I'm on Lucas' side when it comes to the fact that it's more than just the main event for a great pay-per-view. I think a great pay-per-view gives me my freaking money's worth, baby.
Yeah, you're
I
right to an
want to top to bottom. I need to know
Okay,
some names.
I'll go there with y'all.
I
I'll
want
go
to
there
see
with
how
y'all.
people are filling out in their division, even if they're not fighting like another top name. I still got to see where these top names are at in their career, in their divisions. I need to see. I want a stat card. I do.
Hold
I
on,
do.
Lucas. Hold on.
You got to agree certainly. Now, like you said, the main event, I agree. I mean, obviously that is a draw. However, sometimes I can get more excited for a co-main. I can get excited for people below.
You're
Yeah.
not
It
the
is
average fan.
I understand that,
Sometimes
Rob.
I want to see
And
a
I'm not
co-main,
the
but I
average
want to see the
fan.
name.
Listen, I am not even saying that Tank is not pay-per-view worthy. Tank Leo Santa Cruz. I paid for that one. That's pay-per-view worthy. This fight is not pay-per-view worthy, and everything is pay-per-view now. That is part of the problem.
It's the
If
fighter.
okay, Rob, so what? Amir Khan comes out of retirement, cuts weight to 130 or 135. You're
And
gonna watch
people-
that shit?
and
You
people
are
in
no,
the
you are
UK
paying for that.
and people in the UK and people that
No.
know the name is Amir
No.
Khan
People-
would still pay to watch him fight.
People in the UK don't have pay-per-view. Americans are the only motherfuckers that pay pay-per-view, and we're paying out the
No,
ass.
they have pay-per-view, but they don't have to pay the
It's not
price
nearly
that
as
we
much.
pay.
That ain't.
Yeah,
yeah,
but they
it's-
still have pay-per-view.
okay. There's,
Yeah.
But it's
there's,
a different
there's
economy.
this
so
Lightler
you
said
can't
this
say
is
that.
it's pay-per-view. Ours is open your goddamn wallet per view. That's what this shit is.
So
I am not doing this, and this is killing the sport. And you call it what you want, okay? But you have boxing, the best of boxing. You have to pay for. You have to pay $70 goddamn dollars if you want it in HD.
Well, it's
Most of
80
the
now.
time.
And some of them are 80.
I don't even know because I don't pay for them. Most, but most of them. Look, Rob.
you going
Wait a
to
minute.
jail.
Hold on. Hold on. They're going to lock us all up for being
But
on here talking
pay-per-view,
shit.
Listen. To see a decent fight, it's pay-per-view now. When's the last time you seen even a remote name on a Showtime card on anything? Maybe ESPN sometimes.
You asking me that?
But then you got to go to an app because you're usually going to have an ESPN
No,
Plus
you asking
or
me
something
that?
like that. I'm
Yeah.
asking both y'all that. I don't know.
Every single time Gervonta Tank Davis fights. That's my answer.
No, that's a
No,
pay-per-view,
he
Rob.
said
I
when you
said
see
non-pay-per-view.
a
When do you have
non-pay-per-view
access
fight.
to top boxing without paying out your wallet for it?
I think
When
Morrell.
you
I
don't.
think Morrell Jr. was the last one I saw last year,
Who?
where it was on regular
Morrell.
Showtime. I think.
I don't even
I
know
think
what you're
that was the
talking about.
last
That's
one.
how
I'll
bad
even
that
give
is.
you one. Caleb Plant. Caleb
In
Plant has been
Minneapolis.
on. Caleb
No,
Plant has been on
the last
Fox
Caleb
and
fight
stuff
plan
before.
was last
Canelo.
two
Or
Oh, well,
Morrell.
that was on
plans.
Showtime.
That's
Yeah,
pay-per-view and
Morales was on
pay-per-view.
Showtime.
That was on
Morrell was
pay-per-view,
on
wasn't it?
Showtime. I'm sorry.
Darrell was Showtime, or
Yeah.
I thought that was undercard of a pay-per-view.
No,
Yeah,
it
no.
was the undercard of a pay-per-view.
I thought so.
It
No,
was.
I'm saying I'm talking about Morrell Jr. But when he was in Minneapolis and the guy got the brain injury from that fight. Remember that fight?
Mm.
So I'm just saying we are talking about apples and oranges right now.
We're
Pay
really
per
not.
view worthy versus should there be more fights that are free access for fans?
I think all of that is encompassed, though. Do you not agree?
No,
I
but
mean,
I'm
that's
saying
I
like
think
we're
those are two
saying
separate issues.
what's
Personally,
pay-per-view worthy versus should we have more fights accessible to general fans for free on lower channels? Those are two things that where both answers can be yes. Yes, we can have more pay-per-view worthy fights, but we can also have or need we actually need more fights that are accessible for the general public, and we need more cross marketing for fighters. Okay, so you got a football game, but you don't see a world champion there, or you don't get a commercial or promo, for an upcoming fight that's coming up that would might maybe pique somebody's interest. ESPN was doing somewhat of um a decent job at one point when it's a football game or what have you, and then directly after that you get a fight. They did that with the Tio versus Loma fight. Like we were getting some of that with ESPN. Now they done completely stopped too. And now we're at a point where Fox is basically they're not really having a lot of fights.
Showtime's the same way.
Neither is Showtime.
Everybody has dried up. It's all dried up.
Listen. I agree with what you're saying, Shakur, and everything, but
Right.
you're addressing the issue with pay-per-view fights, cards, so to speak, as a whole.
Right.
The topic was last weekend's fight pay-per-view worthy?
Oh, well, no. I had already said anything with Tank is already pay-per-view worthy because he's been pay-per-view already for so long. And
now
the boxing fans, they like seeing him because of the knockouts. That's what they're interested in. It's the same thing when you watch heavyweights back in the day. They were into the heavyweights because they knew somebody was gonna get knocked out.
Exactly. Well, I paid $80. I didn't even get a knockout.
Lucas,
not this week.
You didn't pay to see Mike Tyson versus. You paid to see Mike Tyson. Okay, I mean, you paid to see Mike Tyson.
Yeah, because everybody for a while knew them fights was not even gonna last 5 minutes.
And to a certain degree. But you're comparing Tank right now to Iron Mike Tyson in his prime?
I should, because
you
Tank
should.
Is there in his division.
You should.
He's there in his division. Now, that being set aside, that's why last week's fight was pay-per-view worthy, because of the fighter, the man, the boxer, Gervonta Tank Davis. Now, for Shakura's reasoning, I think I know the answer, so I'm going to ask Curtis. But you just said that aside from the main event, you want to see top elite level fighters and prospects in their prime fight on the fight card. Did this card not have that for you? Were you not interested in those fights?
Yes, I was interested in those fights. I was interested in how Boots was going to look because there was a lot of talk during the week or the lead up about his performance and where he is in the division and why he's not getting better fights. That's why I was interested in that. I was interested in Andrade because I wanted to
Same
see
reason.
what he looked like after being out on a hand injury and leaving Matchroom alone. Then I like Ellis. I thought he was gonna win that fight, but then I remembered seeing his opponent in a different fight where he came up with the win. So I started like kind of cheering for the opponent during the fight. So yeah, there was some names that I was interested in on that card. Now, were they fighting big names as Lucas is bringing up? No, they weren't. They weren't fighting other like what we want to like see a lead ups to. But I still need to see where people are at, especially in a brand new year. This is January. We're in 2023, baby. And I noticed that a lot of times when you fight in January, sometimes those boxers are able to squeeze out a third fight in the same year. So I'm interested in that prospect too. So, yes, I think the co-main event needs to be a banger too, like with two top names. That's always great. But if I'm not gonna get that, at least let me get the names like I got on this card.
So, Lucas, I agree with Shakira wholeheartedly,
Of course you
and it's two versus one.
do. I don't
So
care if
you
it's
are
two versus one.
overruled.
I'm used
No,
to
he
You are
this.
agreed
overruled.
too. Lucas agreed that he
I'm
was
used to it.
interested in
Look,
some of them undercards.
I honestly, I was very sad. I was very sad for one reason. Okay, if anything out of that card, what I was hoping for was to at least see the Lamont Peterson return. He lost. I'm glad I didn't see it. Um, to be out of the sport that long and then to come back, that hurts. But we're talking about pay per view now. This was a Showtime card. This was not a pay per view card. The problem now is that there is no place other than pay per view. So yes, I agree that it had the makings of a pay per view card, right? It had the A side, but that B side was not a B side. That was a C side, right? So let's leave Ellis out of it because I don't think a lot of people were tuning in specifically for him. But let's put Tank, Andrade, and let's put Boots on there, right? Those three weren't question marks. Those were just, as Sakura said, I want to see how they look. We already knew who was going to win. We knew that shit before we already did it. So, I mean, why are we tuning in? Why are we paying for this? We are never, and if Tank can do this, right, against relatively known opponents, and if Boots can keep doing pay-per-view money, right, get these big time money out of fighting nobodies, there is no point in him fighting anybody else. He can coast just like Andrade has done his whole goddamn career and fight nobody after nobody and keep making money and money and money. There is no point in fighting somebody that's hard that could possibly put you in the hospital or possibly make you lose and you look bad when you're making millions fighting bullshit. That's my point. The pay-per-view is ruining the sport, and I just can't do it no more.
Lucas
Hold on,
is
hold on.
on a rant.
No, this is kill boxing for me. This is kill boxing for me over a certain period of time. No, I'm not done yet. Hang on. So I'm at this point have been considering stopping covering the sport just because of how bad the sport has gotten. We are talking about it leaving the Olympics. Nobody bats a fucking eye. It's the most corrupt sport in all because we don't know. I mean, people are getting fucking watches before they go out to fight somebody gifted by the other guy, right? We have a promoter who is basically working away a loophole through an Ali Act. Why even have the law? Fix it. Do something else, right? Like I said earlier with the whole boxing period has gone way downhill. You can't rely on a goddamn medical staff to take care of situations. The guy don't even know where he's going. Nobody checks in on him, right? Nothing is being done, and there is no building, right? There's supposed to be development. They're supposed to be, hey, a Friday Night Fights card. Nobody cares about that. You know why? Because there ain't no goddamn money in building people and developing them. All I want is my cash cow, Canelo, and then I'm going to put him up there and we're going to make a lot of money. I'm going to get Tank.
Well,
He's
wait a
going to
minute
fight
now,
nobodies. I'm
Lucas.
going to put
I
him up with a
mean,
lot of money. I'm going to get all these
ESPN is
guys
trying to
and
build
they ain't
some
fighting nobody.
fighters from some Olympians. ESPN is doing. They're building up some
I mean,
Olympian fighters.
There's going to be
Slowly.
there's going to be some,
Well,
you know,
here's the
that are
problem with
exceptions
Well, I
to
mean,
the
top
rule.
rank.
But the
is building up
problem,
some
here's
Olympians.
the
I'm
problem
sorry.
with Lucas is trying to make in regards to Gervonta Tank Davis. He's fighting Ryan Garcia next.
that's
He
still
wants to fight the
not
big
completely
guys.
done from what I
It
understand.
is. They're gonna fight in April.
Have you seen the contract? Because from what I gather from some insiders, that's not completed yet. There is not a set date. There is not a set venue. There is not a lot of things that are yet to be set. And as we know, for boxing, everything is up for debate. Everything's up for grabs. The ring size, the ref, all of that is to be determined at a later time.
Tank said
and unless
Ryan
that shit's
agreed to
agreed upon,
everything. He already said that. He
then-
said Ryan agreed.
then it would be
to
done, right?
everything.
Then we would have a date, right?
The
Then we would
man
have
just
certain
fought
things.
his last fight.
I don't.
You're
It
not
doesn't
gonna
matter.
get a date 2 days later.
Listen,
Ryan
have-
Garcia
we have-
hasn't even
no,
fought
no, no.
again yet.
Golovkin was already signed, right? Before his last fight with Canelo. Fights are already pre-negotiated.
Golovkin was
That
not
doesn't make
signed.
any sense.
Guys,
Golovkin
listen.
was
What,
not
both of
signed
y'all are
after that.
arguing pretty much the same thing, though. The point that you both are making is that pay-per-view, last weekend's pay-per-view probably was okay, but you're thinking, okay, there's some instances where it seemed like there's some companies where they budgets are getting cut big time. Because if it's not, why is everything turning to pay-per-view? Like, they're not wanting to spend no money on fights anymore because the amount, like Lucas is saying, per boxer is getting to be too high.
It's a sign.
Now
it's a sign of end times.
I agree.
Well, I think that's happening because the competition with these promoters to gain the boxers is getting so ridiculous. They are being so cutthroat with each other that the entire business is basically suffering. You know, because I'm going to offer you this amount of money to sign with my company, and then I hear that this company over here is offering you the same thing or more, so I want to offer a little bit more. But the only way to pay for these signings and these contracts is to put a pay-per-view on the fights.
I
Whether
agree
it makes
with
big
y'all,
money
what
or
y'all
not.
was saying, but the issue is was last week's card pay-per-view
We're done with last
worthy?
week's card.
No, we're not. That's the whole topic, and y'all are going on
no,
about
we
how.
both agree.
No, it's all runs together, Rob. It all runs together.
No,
so
I think this. I think Lucas's issue with last week being a worthy pay-per-view card is in the fact that he is not a Gervonta Tank Davis fan. Therefore, he wants to see.
You're wrong. You're blatantly wrong. I actually love to watch Tank Davis, and I did watch it. I'm just not the one that paid for it, okay? That's the only difference. What I'm trying to get at, Rob, is for me, a Tank Davis, James Kirkland, any of my favorites. Right now, Manny Pacquiao, I don't know, any of them, right? You could name any fighter. They could clone Muhammad Ali from his 20s or something and bring him back. I am not paying pay-per-view if he's just going to fight, Charles Martin. No, I don't want that. If we're going to see him, we're going to bring him back, and you're going to pay-per-view worthy fight against an actual B-side fighter, against somebody who's somewhat competition. We all knew that ending. We all knew. For 3 fights that you paid for, you knew the ending to, Rob. Now you can shed it up different ways if you want. I say it's not pay-per-view worthy. If that's your prerogative and you want to pay for 3 fights that you already knew the outcome to, hey, you can do that. That's your prerogative. This is a free country. But in my eyes, it's ruining the sport, and it is by far the worst thing that can happen to boxing. Boxing will go under. And just to say it, there's signs of it now. the reason everything is going to pay-per-view is because fighters want more than what they're actually going to get out of the sport. They're bleeding it dry. They are bleeding it dry. You are not, you just think about it, right? Remember all those days of all these HBO pay-per-view cards that were better? There has been an HBO pay-per-view, like 1 year was probably worth more than the last 4 or 5, because lately there has just been nothing pay-per-views, especially this past year. This 2022 was the worst year especially for male fighters, right? There's been nothing. And it just goes to prove right now, because if you look at what happened with Canelo and his whole situation, right? DAZ, and we're going to pay you $365 million a year because you're going to bring all this. Then they realize, oh shit, he's not bringing enough users. Now we're going to have to charge pay-per-view, even though we told everybody we ain't doing pay-per-view. Guess what? They went back on their word anyway. And everybody's still tuning in, still paying them money. I don't know what else to do.
I'm like, why? But why did they offer Canelo that type of money? It's because they wanted to be so much in competition with the existing American promoters. And this is what I'm saying is the issue that's underlying everything. And Rob, bring your ass back on.
Yep. Come face your dad's comment right here.
You're the one that said this shit. You're the one that was bringing up this pay-per-view situation. We said Tank is getting the pay-per-views. He's getting the people in the seats because he's a knockout artist. Go ahead, read Mr. Alexander's comments.
Yeah, Rob, go for it.
He says it is not pay-per-view worthy in my view. If we still had Showtime, which we do, or HBO, which we don't, yes. I'm old school. Back in the day, pay-per-view was reserved for the best of the best against each other, and those boxers were household names. Unlike the pay-per-view fight names in the good old days. If you walk down the street and ask people who is Tank Davis, I'll submit to you 80% would say never heard of him. That was not true in the past. Those guys not only knew how to fight, but how to sell themselves. Boxing is suffering from poor marketing, which I'm sure is what it says, because you don't have the whole
actually,
one up
yeah, hang on. I think it commented so long it even cut it off on my side.
Wow.
That's all it said.
Damn,
yeah.
Pops.
But you got to agree
with you,
with Mr. Alexander,
let's
right?
Set that straight.
I mean,
don't agree with you.
So
you got to agree, right? So pay-per-view, Canelo, not quite a household name. He's not up there with Floyd or Manny yet. But I mean, Canelo's still a household name. Tank Davis, I think, is not even a 25% name of who was Tank Davis. They'd be like, what? Is that a wrestler?
You mean he don't get in enough trouble to be known?
Who's Tank? No, he doesn't. It's not trouble. It's just he doesn't do enough in the sport, right? Like, I love Tank. I
just feel like we got to stop trying to compare these pay-per-views and the pay-per-view numbers to the last boxing generation, which was Floyd and Manny Pacquiao. That we can't do that because it's every 20 to 30 years before that caliber of big boxing stars comes along. Like before Floyd and Manny got big, it was Mike Tyson. Before Tyson, you had to go back to Ali. So why are we like thinking
but we're
that
talking
right
about
after these two big names in the industry have retired, that we're gonna just all of a sudden have an equal to boxing star they were?
See, you're still thinking about it wrong.
Make sense.
You can compare them, and here's the reason: we can compare the pay-per-view numbers, right? They're making pay-per-views that are not doing the numbers.
Comparing those numbers because it's not the same caliber of boxers.
Hold on. We can. Here's why we do that, right? Because Rob's saying Tank's up there, right? Tank's drawing. That's what Rob was saying. No, let me finish. Let me finish.
That's not what he
Tank
said.
is drawing all these numbers.
Lucas.
He draws these games.
For today, he said, who's the best of today?
No. We can go back in the show.
The best of
In the
today.
I did say
in
today.
the show today. In the show
Yeah,
today.
he didn't say nothing about compared to
No.
another
He didn't
generation
say
of
compared to.
fighters.
He didn't say compared to. That's not what I said. I meant what Rob said earlier today was Tank makes the pay-per-view numbers, right? He is the reason. He is the star. He draws all this attention. He draws the $5 million gate, right? So that's what you're saying, Rob. The problem is he still doesn't show those pay-per-view numbers because Manny versus damn it, who's that one dude that he double punched? Basically a no-name, lost to Kodo too.
Oh, wait a minute.
Claudia.
That's not who I thought you were saying.
Joshua Claudia. He did over 500,000 sales of pay-per-view. Now you're talking about Tank. Tank can't do that even against Leo Santa Cruz. Tank's not going to do that against Ryan Garcia. So why are we putting him on pay-per-view? Because he's demanding that money. He is demanding that he makes this much money where he will not fight. And that's basically what all these pay-per-views are coming to. Wilder wants a certain amount, right? The only way you can make and meet that number is by putting it on pay-per-view. But even then, you might come up a little short because if you don't get those sales like you're hoping, it all falls through.
Well, I mean,
and Tank can't put up big pay-per-view numbers.
You're looking at it. Yeah, I could go another route with you there. Brother. The cost of pay-per-view right now is through the roof, and it went up. So the cost of the pay-per-views went up. You're gonna have less viewers wanting to tune in because everything is up right now.
But I paid $40.
Now you're blaming inflation. Now you're blaming inflation, and it's not on Tank anymore. It's on inflation. I see how it is.
But I paid $40, and I was able to see Bud fight. Because I'm a big Bud fan, and I got to show my support. So
and we can see,
but they want us to believe that it's wrong for us to want to watch something that came from a different app.
It's wrong to pay for it again. You're paying.
You're paying Adrian Broner.
But I paid half of what I would have paid if I was watching another pay-per-view.
And I bet Adrian Broner is going to be pay-per-view. Adrian Broner hasn't been pay-per-view in a very long time.
Adrian Broner is on BLK Prime.
I ain't talking about AB. I said Bud.
He is.
That's a big damn difference. And not only that, if I'm going to pay a pay-per-view, I'd much rather pay a $40 pay-per-view than to pay a damn $80 and $90 pay-per-view.
Yeah, but
and it's a good broadcast. It's a good broadcast.
It was actually a good broadcast.
They put together a good broadcast.
It looked better than the zone shit. Okay.
I mean, that's not hard to do. DAC is terrible. I can't call it the zone.
They had a better commentating team for sure. Damn it. But listen, all I've got to say, and I'm gonna have to go, guys.
Yeah, it's about time.
I'm really tired and fatigued, and my voice is about gone. I'm gonna end it by saying this: Lucas, will you be watching Gervonta Tank Davis versus Ryan Garcia's pay-per-view? Would that be pay-per-view worthy?
This is the one that can actually sell just alone on the main event, right? It's not going to need an undercard. It's not going to get one. We already know that. Pay-per-views don't get an undercard any day, any. God damn, I can't talk anymore. Anyways, so it doesn't need it. No, I'll pay the pay-per-view money to see that fight because honestly, whoever wins that is coming out a superstar in the sport. It's moving them up that much closer to a Canelo type level. More to a face of boxing. In fact, this might elevate them possibly higher than Canelo because I think there's a lot of people tuning into this. Ryan Garcia kind of transcends the sport. He is more of like an Instagram star and a YouTube star.
I cannot believe
he hangs out with Jake Paul.
For this pay-per-view.
This is one you don't want to mess up. You don't want to, your buddy sends you a stream link. You don't want to use it because if it dies mid-fight, you're going to be mad, right? So you have to pay for this one. You have to shell out the money. But this is one that demands it. You guys are defending a card that had 3 known. I could have not watched it and told you I know those 3 won, right?
You did
know
that. So
what is the point? I would have.
But you didn't know
I could have guessed it.
boxing.
We all talked about it beforehand, did we not? Did we not say those people were
So
going to win?
listen.
You
We
can
knew
say
it. We
a
knew it before
probability,
Sakura.
but you really can't say because it is boxing.
It-
And then you had the nerve to say, "Wait a minute, now that maybe the opponents were tougher than I thought."
You keep bringing that up. There was that one fight, okay? The other
It
three,
wasn't
they were
one
all
fight.
crap.
You
That was
said it
Ellis
about
fight.
Boots too. You didn't just say it about Ellis.
That Boots was all right.
So for me to make my final point here, thank you, Dad. I'm about to backtrack. Gervonta Tate Davis is moving in the right direction
now
towards
you're doing.
being a huge pay-per-view superstar.
Now that's a huge backtrack. You said he was already there.
He's not a pay-per-view star.
And that's my final point.
We don't have a pay-per-view star. This is how I'm going to leave it. We don't have pay-per-view stars. We don't. I don't even know the last time somebody did like 600,000. I think the only person is Canelo, right? We don't have any other
Tyson
person.
Fury, buddy.
Did he do under 600,000?
I believe he did maybe five, if not more.
What for the Wilder Furies? Like the
It
trilogy?
was Joshua.
Yeah, I don't.
Who did it? It could have been Joshua and
I'm not sure, but
Now that really makes no sense to me. But I mean, that's for another conversation.
But
if you want me to pull it, I'll pull it.
But no.
I'm just saying.
We're getting ready to go.
I don't believe
We're getting ready
Anthony
to go.
Joshua.
No.
He shouldn't be getting them kind of numbers if he is getting
Joshua
them kind
doesn't
of numbers.
because he's on DAZN. I mean, most of his cards weren't pay-per-view anyway.
Yeah, they're not
They
going to
get
tell us
viewership
their
numbers. They
No,
get
I'm
viewership
not talking
numbers.
about that. I'm talking about pay-per-view number. Nobody's a pay-per-view star currently, I don't think, other than possibly Canelo. I think he's the only one that does over 500,000, right?
I think slowly the fans are starting to wean off him now too.
We are. They're pissed. Everybody's pissed. Because we were promised to get Canelo for no pay-per-view, and now we're getting told we got to pay. But honestly, boxing, everybody always says, like, is boxing dying? It is. It has a cancer called pay-per-view. It's been crawling around for a while, but pay-per-views, it's slowly finishing it off. No one cares to correct what's going on at the amateur level, and it's bleeding into the professionals. If it wasn't already, corrupt in the amateurs, is corrupt in the pros. Why is Tyson Fury not allowed into the America as it is? No one cares.
Damn,
Boxing,
Lucas, you went through the whole trash can of boxing today.
Boxing is a trash can right now. Okay, there's things that are trying to crawl its way out. But honestly, if you're talking on the coast, it's a coastal sport. In the middle, no one gives a shit. But
Minneapolis is putting on good shows.
Consider
they
good.
get people in there. But why I'm going to end it with on a
in.
positive note, and I'm going to say that they are still like a whole new, even younger generation that is working hard. They're wanting to be boxers. They're fighters by heart. And everybody is not making huge money as boxers. But these boxers are still trying their best to make it through the sport and wanting to fight and entertain boxing fans. So we can hold on to that there is still even more talent that exists out here if we can get it seen by more than just your regular audience that's like like in a local market.
That's key.
I mean,
I
know that for sure. That there's talent out here. We haven't even began. We never see all of the talent that has to be out here. I'm not able to see all the talent because I'm only in the Tampa Bay area. I can see more stuff here than I can if I'm in California. But I know what's over there in California. I know they got to be seeing like double the numbers of boxers with talent that I'm seeing. So we just have to like look harder. If we're real boxing fans, we'll be there to support boxers.
And I fully agree. I don't want to take the mood down, okay? But we have this. we have this thing like support, and I'm not saying to not support them. I'm not saying that, but if it's a pay-per-view fight that you're paying to see, should it not be worth your money? That's all I'm asking, right? Don't pay for a fight that you know the outcome to. Do not do that. You can support him. Support him. He's a millionaire, right? If he's doing pay-per-view money, he's got some money. He don't need support. What he needs is a boost in his career, right? And if we're talking about Gervonta Tank Davis, yes, he had a great fight against Leo Santa Cruz, but he still needs that big name. Let's hope that this Ryan Garcia is locked in, because if not, who's he going to fight? Who has he fought? Who has he knocked out that put him so highly that we should have to see him on pay-per-view? What set that precedent other than just knockouts, right? He's knocking out names. Okay, but like you have to knock out a name. Like anybody can win and anybody can get knockouts. It's just determining on who you knock out that makes it harder, right? That level of competition needs to be there to make it pay-per-view worthy. And I'm begging consumers who are paying these pay-per-view prices, make it worth it. These are the only people that can save boxing. Do not pay for Danny Garcia versus Rod Sulka. Don't tune into that shit. And yes, I'm going to keep coming back to that because 1 million people tuned into a fight that the guy wasn't even ranked in the division. He wasn't even ranked in the division.
I understand, Lucas, but it wasn't pay-per-view, was it?
No, but 1 million people tuned in.
Viewed it.
Why?
Because they love Danny.
He doesn't even have 1 million followers on Twitter, so I don't know where the rest of them came from.
Oh,
they must have just been. I'm serious.
Well, he probably had him at that time. He lost.
I didn't want to get into this social media numbers.
Yeah, we need to go. But thank you for tuning in for the first Tough Talk Tuesday of 2023. Thank you for Sakura for sticking it out. I know your voice is bad, and I really appreciate it. Rob, as always, thank you for being my right-hand man. But thank you all for tuning in, and we'll see you again next Tuesday, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific.
All right. Love you guys.